Hey there boys, today we're going to be talking about one of the most Giga Chad weapons in the game, and that is Tractor Cannon. Tractor Cannon is one of a couple support weapons in the game. However, unlike most of the other support weapons in the game, Tractor actually allows you to do pretty good DPS on your own, even though you're giving up your heavy slot because it applies its debuff and lets you do other things in the meantime. Comparing that to something like Divinity, where you have to constantly be shooting the boss with a very low damage weapon, and you're basically giving up your place of doing damage to improve the damage of the team, you can see that Tractor has a lot of benefits. However, despite this, I noticed that a lot of LFG teams will just do raid bossing with no debuff at all, but a debuff actually increases damage by a ton. Tractor Cannon on its own is a 1.3x multiplier, meaning it's a 30% buff. However, because all of the buffs in the game are multiplicative for the most part, we actually get much more than 30% damage added on when we calculate it with things like well and weapon damage perks. So to sort of put this in perspective, in a basic setup you would have surge mods on your boots, be standing in a well of radiance, and have a damage perk on your weapon. So we'll go with bait and switch, and on obviously the 25% and 22% for well and surges respectively. When we multiply all of those together, we get just over a 2x damage buff. However, if you multiply that by 1.3 again with a debuff, you can see it goes up to 2.67 times damage, which is a whole lot more than 1.3 obviously, so it is a big deal. The idea behind this video is going to be to show you guys how to be Giga Chads with Tractor. And to put it simply, that is special weapon DPS without having a heavy weapon because you're using Tractor. For the most part, you're going to be using shotguns and fusions with the Tractor Cannon, so I'm only going to be showing that off, but you can pair this with snipers if you're in some kind of odd situation where you need to do that. And I am also going to showcase glitch swapping in this just because it makes shotgun swapping a lot better. However, you can do every shotgun swap method shown in the video without doing the swap glitch. If you do want to learn how to do the swap glitch, I actually have a video about it and I will link it down in the description below. But we're going to start off easy for now and just show fusion rifles. If you are a more casual player and just looking for something really easy you can do, I would argue that doing fusion rifle with Tractor is actually easier than being effective with rockets, so I would definitely recommend this to you. However, if you do like doing more damage and you're willing to do some slightly more complex things, I highly recommend looking at shotguns and snipers after this. Doing fusion damage while keeping Tractor is about as easy as you think it is. You just need to keep reapplying Tractor. Tractor will last for 10 seconds, and you just need to reapply it before it runs out every time. This is typically, depending on the archetype of fusion, going to be 4 or 5 shots. And now let's look at what the best fusion rifles to do this would be. In general, when it comes to DPS weapons, you're looking for a weapon which has both a reload or ammo perk and a good damage perk. The current best damage perk in the game for fusions is going to be Controlled Burst, and the best ammo perk is going to be either Envious Assassin or Overflow for the most part. However, if you don't have access to a fusion with those perks, perks like Autoloading Holster and Vorpal Weapon are both also very good and a little bit more accessible. As for the archetype, I highly recommend a rapid fire frame. They do better DPS than high impacts, however high impacts do come pretty close. However, they're much harder to get the damage out of than a rapid fire, just because they're unforgiving, and if you end up missing even a single bolt, you lose out on a massive part of damage. All that said, my top picks are going to be Scatter Signal for number 1, followed by Cartesian Coordinate or Riptide with Vorpal Weapon on it. If you want something really easy to use and you're new to the game, you could buy the Null Composure from the Monument to the Lost Exotics and pick that up, and it is an okay fusion rifle. It has high impact reserves, which is not an amazing perk, but if you do actually make use of it and run through the entire magazine, it does get an okay damage buff that is almost like a Vorpal Weapon, but obviously it requires you to dump the entire magazine to get that, otherwise you lose almost all the value. And next up, we'll be looking at shotguns, but really quickly I did want to thank everybody who's been watching the video.
That's right, it's me, John LFG. Today, we're going to be learning how to do some more DPS, so like, comment, and subscribe to increase your DPS in the next raid!
Whoa, that was weird. Anyway, after fusion rifles, we're going to look into shotguns now, and this is where the real meta for Tractor comes in. This is going to be the most powerful stuff and the highest damage you can get using Tractor. There's actually 3 main ways I'd say to use shotguns with Tractor, and every single one of them is still more powerful than fusion rifles, and one of them is actually just as easy as fusion rifles, even easier maybe. So let's look into it. So starting off easy, you have two main ways of doing it with just a single shotgun and still doing better damage than fusions, and that's going to be using either a rapid fire shotgun with either surrounded or vorpal. Obviously surrounded is better if you can proc it, otherwise you'd want vorpal. Rapid fire frame shotguns have some of the highest DPS for legendary special weapons in the game. Just from a baseline, it's very high, and obviously just adding on any damage perk and reload perk is going to make that pretty good. You can also take a little bit of a more unique choice in a trench barrel aggressive frame shotgun. This one I definitely recommend using Imperial Decree in specific for. Aggressive frame shotguns allow you to reload a shot just as fast as you can fire the weapon, so you can basically constantly be reloading it with something like Threat Detector to make it extra smooth, and just sit there and melee every 3 shots and just do damage that way. It's very simple and it's very effective. It's some of the highest total damage special legendary DPS in the game. However, it doesn't give up a lot of DPS to do that. It still does it decently quickly. And next up, we're going to get into the shotgun swapping. We're going to start this off with aggressive swapping because I think it's easier than lightweight swapping. However, it is worth noting that lightweight swapping will do damage quicker than aggressive swapping. That said, for longer encounters, an aggressive swap will do more total damage than a lightweight swap. So when you're doing a shotgun swap, there's two ways of doing it. You can either do 1-2, 1-2, which is just going between your kinetic and energy slot, or you can do 1-2-3, 1-2-3, 1-2-3, which is cycling between all 3 of your weapons. Aggressive swapping benefits the most from doing 1-2-3 swapping, which is why I think it's the easiest, because you can bind a key that just simply goes through all of your weapons one at a time. You can even set this up on controller with custom binds, and it's very easy to do. After this, you just stack up all the handling you can, and you just hold the trigger and swap the weapons after a bullet fires from the shotgun, and you just run through them as quick as you can. And now we're going to get into lightweight swapping, which is the most effective most of the time, and also the most ammo efficient heavy-wise. If you have to, for example, switch to tractor after using an eager edge sword, this is the strat you're going to want to use, because it doesn't use a lot of heavy ammo. On top of that, it's also the fastest way to deal damage using 2 shotguns in the game. However, obviously going through 3 weapons at once with aggressive swapping gets to about the same DPS also. To do lightweight swapping, what you're going to want to do is apply your tractor and then start going back and forth between the 2 lightweight shotguns, and every 10 seconds you need to reapply tractor cannon. So you have to have a little bit more hand-eye coordination and be able to go back and forth at the right timing and stop doing your shotgun swap, go over to tractor, and start doing the swap again, all in a smooth fashion. However, if this is a skill that you are able to develop, your teams will absolutely love you. You won't be hitting the top of the damage leaderboard without having a heavy weapon for the most part, unless you're on a pretty weak team. However, in many cases, you won't even be last. If anybody makes any sort of mistake, you're going to pass them doing damage with tractor this way. And that's going to do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you learned something new, and leave a comment with your thoughts below. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye-bye.